Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another video in the How to Edit Wedding Photos series. You can watch more of these videos in the playlist on the channel. Hi guys, welcome back to another editing video. So today I thought we'd take a look at Rebecca and Alan at Wynyard Hall. So there's 31 images, so should be a bit of a quicker video. No posh intro like the other videos, but let's just dive straight into it. So let's fire over to Lightroom, and here you go. You can see the 31 images. So again, let's put the preset on everything, color, and then let's just bounce back to library module. I'm going to put temperature in, 1, 2, and then 2 tints, and then a large tint. I already see it's one a bit purple on these ones, so we'll probably have to warm up the insides. So let's unselect all of those, and cool. Right, if you don't mind, I will be switching off my lights so I can see what I'm doing. Makes such a difference, honestly. You wouldn't believe it. Right, open that basic panel. Power keys is open. Lovely. That's why it's purple. For some reason, the preset hasn't gone on. Look at the difference. Straight away. Preset goes on. Fixed. Right. So let's just straighten this up. So this was again at Wynyard Hall. And I think it was the company called Isla Blooms who did all of the flowers and made everything look awesome, which they did. It was a great job. Pull the exposure down a little bit. So I'm just sort of looking at the highlights. I'll probably add a little bit more warmth into these as well. Just a smidge. So again, sort of before, after. Very similar. So it sort of shows that my editing is consistent. So straight away you should be seeing that light there is the first thing that catches my eye. So that'll be going in a second. So let's just straighten it up. And again, I'm just sort of watching the highlights. This side's obviously closer to the windows, which does prove a little bit of a problem during the ceremony as well, because obviously the bride's facing the shadow side. So I am just going to add a little bit of dodge from this side, just to brighten that side of the room up a tiny bit. And then let's see what we can do about this fire exit sign. I wish venues had fire exit signs that weren't on and only came on if the fire alarm sounded. That would just be ideal. It wouldn't be as prominent, you know, you wouldn't have big green boxes in your photos. So again, this makes it a lot easier now. Lightroom's actually half decent at removing stuff. Still looks a bit muddy up there, so just try and get rid of this dark bit. I think that'll do. Lovely. Right, that looks decent to me. Might pull the exposure a little bit more. And then next image. So I don't use a wide angle lens anymore. I literally shot this with put the lights back on. So I bought this lens purely to do some wide angle shots for Wynyard when I went to their showcase one time. So this is a Samyang 2.8 14, and it's a manual lens. It's an actual bitch to work with, to be fair. So it literally just lives in the office as an ornament now, but like I never use it really. So if I put that back over there, let's just dive back into the editing. So that's another thing, consistency. Obviously I use my same preset all the time for editing. That's where the consistency comes from, but it also comes from the fact I use the same 2 focal lengths on everything, 35, 85. I'm usually at similar distances for certain stuff, so that's where the consistency comes from. That's why I don't use zooms. You know, you could be at every different focal range going. But let's just jump back into the edit. Right, let's crop this so straight, just slightly off, and then just pull it back a little bit. So the highlight section's obviously here. I think what I may do is just draw in some exposure into the back wall, the roof, and the left side of the frame. I'm going to take it off them flowers in a second, because obviously the closest bit here is obviously lit up already. So I'm going to hold Alt on the keyboard, and I'm just dragging up and down on my mouse to make the brush smaller or bigger. And I'm just going to take it off the flowers, because they don't need any extra light. If anything, they might need brought down a tad, but let's just leave it at that. So that mask looks like this. So it's just affecting the large proportion of the room where there's no light, and it just helps it out quite a bit, to be fair. So let's just pull a tiny, and I'm talking tiny, like 0.10 highlight burn from this side of the room, and just to control it a little bit. And it's more for the chairs, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to subtract a brush from the top part of the image again, because I don't want it affecting that wall or the roof or this side of the room. So if I just turn that on and off, so just pulling the highlights down slightly on the chairs, if you can see that. Again, we've got 2 fire exit signs to deal with because we've got mirrors. So just be careful when you're checking for that type of stuff. So let's just go in and remove it. Looks good to me. Sweet. Let's move on to the next one. Should be similar sort of ease. Just straight in, take it out. Again, with the tool, you sort of don't have to be too accurate on what you draw. It sort of knows what it's doing. Such a big benefit. I am so happy they introduced it. So that looks really nice. I'm going to pull the exposure down a bit because I don't mind the atmosphere. That's what I said in my other editing videos. I do sort of look for the highlights and the shadows now, rather than, I know in previous times, and you might do this as well, you'd want to like make the entire room bright, you'd pull this bit back down so it matched everything else, but I prefer the moodiness and the atmosphere. So if we sort of look at this beforehand, where were we at? It was sort of like this, so it was like that. So it was a little bit more brighter, the shadows were a little bit higher, whereas now it's like this. So if anything, I might rotate it a bit more. Nice. And this is the benefit of going back and re-editing your images. Already, this was shot on, what date? The 1st of April last year. So coming up nearly a year, and already my editing has slightly changed. So it's good. This is how I keep my consistency on my website and socials and things like that. So, but I've sort of found my style. You've sort of seen it hasn't changed much from last year, but my editing now is staying exactly how it is. That preset is never changing. I'm so happy with my work that I don't want to then introduce a new preset and have to go back through 3, 4, 5 years of blog posts and re-edit all the images again. So yeah, it's worth finding your style and sticking with it. Don't be constantly changing, because it just leads to the client not trusting in what they're going to get. Right, I'm happy. Let's move on. So don't do too many ring shots. I prefer to just photograph the rings on the bride or the groom. And even then, I'm not a big detail-y person. Like, you know, these like shots that you've got to do. I don't believe you've got to do any shot. You approach the day how you approach the day. But if they're there and I've got time, why not? So I grabbed the rings and I just went into the bathroom. This is in the bathroom, and I found these jars. So I just popped them on top of the jar next to the window light, and we're good to go. This wedding's actually working out quite nice, because you've seen I've barely touched my temperature or tint on any of these images, and they just sort of work straight away. So I think what I'll do is probably, instead of pulling this bit down, I'm just going to lift the rest of the image up basically, and then I can just pull the entire thing down. If anything, I'm going to do a second dodge on the bride's face, and then I'm just going to use the minus keys to just pull that all back. And straight away, I'll control this bit and the rest of the image. Again, I might add a tiny bit more dodge onto Becca, and then I can see the wall in the back here. It's just to put me off a little bit. It's a bit wonky, so I can't straighten it up completely, but I'll just straighten up a tiny bit. Bit more warmth, I would say. Tiny bit. Pull it back. So before and after. So I've shot this basically just a circular mirror, and it has like two circles, so it's like a circle within a circle. So this is the first circle, that's the second circle, and I'm just shooting through the mirror on the wall, and she's just slightly over from the wall getting her makeup done. And that's how I've created that image. Next photo, again, let's just pull this down. So she is right near a window, so then obviously the rest of the room falls to shadows, and that's why there's such a highlight and shadow intensity. So if I pull that off, nice. Again, this type of image is perfect, where I spoke before about people having presets with like plus 20, plus 30 contrast. If I stick plus 20, 30 contrast on this image, watch her face. If I zoom in, so if I zoom into there and then press contrast up, look how grungy, and it's just, I don't think it's pleasing at all. It's like the shadows are too deep. It's just too contrasty. And like your work might be like that, and you might think, I love that. But which was my case. I did that. I had contrast on for quite a number of years, And then once you realize less is more, that's when your imagery and your editing becomes perfect. All right. So less is more. You don't need to do a lot to your images. And now we're zoomed in at 1:1, you can sort of see the grain that I add. So it just helps take some of that digital away. And obviously this image is very sharp. I mean, look how sharp her eyes are. And again, this is shot with the 35 1.4. But if I take away the grain, so take the grain away. So there you go, no grain. It just looks even sharper and it's really digital looking. Whereas if I add the grain, and it's only subtle, it's only 15, so 3, 2, 1, put it back on, and it just looks a little bit nicer. It adds that little bit of texture. And again, for years, I tried grain on and off, and I was just not a fan, but I love it now. It just really helps my images. I find sometimes as well, it can just really help if you've got certain tonalities, and this is maybe like a little bit of cross banding, so you can sort of see the lines between the tonal ranges. Adding a bit of noise can sometimes help smooth that out. But yeah, lovely image. So I'm just going to do what I said before, and let's just go into survey mode, and this is how I just check that the images are sort of where I want them to be. So if anything, this one still looks a little bit too bright compared to this image, but the tonality range and the editing of it looks identical, which is what we want. So again, I'm just going to pull some exposure down. So open the basic panel, just pull that back. What I might do is just add a tiny bit of dodge to the left side of the frame again, because that side's just going a little bit too dark. I'm not quite keen on too much shadow up here, so I'm just going to brighten that up a little bit. Right, and then pull that back a bit more, up a bit. Right, needs straightening up. Just going to pull it across. I don't want that stem with that glass in. Again, did I make this black and white in previous edits? I did, but I'm just going to leave it as is. A bit more warmth. I'm just going to pull it down. So I'm just looking at the whole image, and then I'm going to add a little bit of subject pop to the guys there. Lush. Right, I'm going to detract it from a person. So select people, subtract, select people. And I'm going to select the makeup art, a hairdresser in the back, her entire person, create a mask, and goodbye. So now it's only affecting Becca. So it's probably a little bit too much. I'm going to pull it off a tiny bit, just so it's 0.2 instead of 0.3, and then pull the overall image down. So that's looking really nice before and after. So again, if we sort of look at the first 7 as a set in survey mode, that's looking really nice, really concise. I hope you guys are enjoying these, and you know, I enjoy watching some editing videos now and again. It's just put on the background while I'm editing. But please do like the videos. All the likes help push out YouTube. I'm just a tiny little channel, but one day I might take over the world with your help. So subscribe if you're not already, and if you can, drop a comment. Comments really help with the YouTube algorithm. It shows that people are engaging, they're on the platform. So I'm just straightening this image up and cropping it in. I don't do too many stage shots. My entire approach is to just be natural. But the bride had sent me down to the lads for some specific shots. So I just took them outside and said, look, let's try and make it look as natural without, I don't want you looking at the camera, even though he slightly is. Pull the exposure a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit magenta out. And like I said, the 35G Master handles chromatic aberration really well. So it looks pretty good there. If I shot this on the 35 1.8, I'd have blue fringing all over these branches. But again, I can apply the Chroma Fix preset and just help it out a little bit. It tends to... Has it removed a bit of purple there, do we think? I think it has, especially up here. I would say it's took some out. So if you want to create that preset, just put +2 on the green and purple in the manual on the lens corrections tab, and it just helps every now and again. Right, that's fine. Let's move on. This shot was done in about 3 or 4 seconds. There's a behind the wedding video on the channel called Becca and Alan. So if you want to watch that, I've got the GoPro or the Osmo Action on top of my camera for the entire day. You can see all the behind the scenes and me shooting all the bits. We literally were in the kitchen, went, had to quickly take you into the other room. He followed us in. Oh, just stand by that window and do your bow tie. He literally grabbed his bow tie. I went click, click, click. I went, right, that's it. And off he went. That's sort of my extent of interfering. I don't want to have grooms or brides just spending ages with me having a photo shoot. It's a wedding day at the end of the day. So I'm going to crop it in a bit. See what straighten does. I think we might get away with that. I think it's maybe just compressing his face a bit too much. Yeah. So just sort of leave it as is. I'm going to add a bit of warmth and then just pull it down a bit more. Again, so I've just created that mood. It was probably, most people would have sort of left it where it was, up here. And that's fine. But if you just pull it down, it creates that atmosphere and mood, which I like. Moving on. So again, the editing's a little bit slower because I've got the SSD in. So for this image, I'm just going to crop it in slightly and get rid of this radiator pipe. The television back here, that's complicated wallpaper pattern, so I don't think the clone stamp it'll do a very good job on that. So I'm just going to pull it in, and then obviously we have a lot of light hitting the bottom, so I'm just going to brighten the top up. So I'm going to go over, so it's going to look a bit naff, but once I pull this beauty back, right, so let's pull it all back. So straight away I'm controlling the highlights down here, but it still has the effect that the light is at the bottom of the image more than the top, which is fine. And I'm just going to add a tiny little dodge to her face, and I pull it back once more. So before, after. Now when I do that, you can quite clearly see the difference in how bright the bottom of the image is to the top, and then we've just balanced that out. So that looks really nice. Let's add a straighten, and I'm good to go, I think. Tiny bit magenta. Yeah, let's move on. Again, ceremony time. Mum having a tear. All the light is coming from one side of the room, so everything on this side is basically in shadow. So we're just gonna have to probably do a subject pop on Mum. Yeah, just lift it up a little bit. I'm gonna take the crop in, get rid of the flowers on this side. I'm just gonna lift that up, probably take it in a little bit, get rid of the white on the other side. Nice. And then just lift the entire image up a little bit. I'm going to add one more pop dodge over this side, and then what I may do is pull the entire image back. Bit of magenta. Nice. Before, after. Okay, let's move on. So again, all the light is coming from this side, so the back of Becca is obviously really bright, but so is Alan. And I had to deal with a flower arch, so I'm pretty much stood next to the back of the registrar, and we've got a flower arch going over the top of us. Right, let's straighten this up a tiny bit. How's that looking? So I'm just looking at crop first. Right, what I'm going to do is probably just concentrate on Alan. Forget about Becca. Let's get Alan correct. Bit more warmth, bit more magentas. Let's just keep pulling that down. Now you can see the problem if you look at Becca's face. So that looks nice. And then this is where we need to correct. So we've controlled the highlights on the back of the veil and the dress. So this is where we sort of need to probably, this would have took a while in previous, but if we do a select people, and we're going to select Becca, and then we're going to have to just do the facial skin, which is what I think I did before. Or we could do the entire front of her body, and then just take it off the back, which might be better. So I'm going to create a mask for the entire person, and this is where we'll have to just pump it up. I try not to lift shadows on anything usually, because it just introduces noise. So I'll do a tiny bit on this though, just purely because we sort of have to. But we don't want to go too far, like we don't want it to be like pure bright. So let's just pull this back down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a brush, because I feel like I'm starting to get a white line here on her face. So I'm just going to add it to the background a little bit as well. Yeah, I was. So just clean it up a little bit. Right. And now we need to subtract it off her entire back. And then it should just look a little bit more balanced. I'm going to actually pull some blues in as well, because she's got quite a heavy tan. Then just pull the highlights up a little bit. Let's have a look at before and after. So it's quite a difference, but there's not too much we can do. We don't want to go too far more on that, because it'll just look really unnatural. So if we have sort of look beforehand, so this was it before, so just slightly green, but looks a lot nicer now. Again, probably just cropped in a bit too much, so if I just pull that back out a little bit. Actually no, I'm going to keep it so I don't have this very colourful dress in. Might even look a bit tighter. I'm just going to straighten it up off the back of these two lines here. That looks nice. This shadow line here is doing my OCD in a bit. I'll just have to leave it though. Right, let's move on. This was originally a black and white, so it looked like this. Very nice, very nice. But again, it might look really nice just leaving colour. So I'm just going to pull it down. You can sort of see the flower arch that we've got. Straight away, I have to deal with this bad boy. So it's obviously done an absolutely atrocious job there. So I'm going to try and just incorporate some flowers and see if we can just block the entire area off and make it look like the flowers were in the way. Yeah, think that works. Yeah, of course it does. Right, again, I think when I did the editing for this wedding, I had to select Becca's face on every single photograph and just try and lift it up a bit. So this time I'm going to do facial skin, lips, teeth, create mask, and then that'll just lift it up. So turn that off, turn it on. Very subtle. So then what I might do is just add an actual dodge over the top as well. Let's add some highlight pull to the back of the dress, a tiny bit of exposure pull as well. So that's before, after. So it looks really nice in colour. Again, could quite easily make it black and white, but quite like the colour version of it, to be fair. Let's pull this in. So we're getting there. So this is Mum shedding a tear again. Again, just got to be sort of present in the moment of what's going on and not just focusing on the bride and groom. So let's add the pop, subject pop. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to back it off because I'm just going to look at the highlight on her left side of her face. Just pull that down. Bit more warmth, bit more magenta. So this wedding's been good for not having to put too much magenta or warmth back in. The preset's pretty much done it all. Now, they came out the doors for the confetti, and then there's like, I would say about 3 meters of red carpet, and then about 1 meter to 2 meters of like black concrete. But there was a giant puddle literally just right in front of her dress. So I said literally get up to the puddle and just stop. I think that's why they're both sort of looking down at the puddle. Again, I've done confetti videos on my Instagram. This stuff, I tell people to stay away from it. The dried purple flowery stuff. You need absolutely mountains of it to see it in a photo. You can sort of see it, like, you can't see it very well. So that's why I always recommend people get the circle, like tracing paper type of stuff. Right, was this? Yeah, it was black and white before. So let's do black and white because I think every photo's been colour so far. And I'm just going to pull it back and then just rotate it slightly. And I'm just going to add a bit of warmth. Again, remember, your white balance does affect your image. So if I pull the warmth right to the top, yeah? So that's why getting your white balance correct and then adding your black and white is quite important. Right, this image, let's go with straightening it. And I'm just going to pull it in a tiny bit. I feel like it still needs rotating slightly, just a tiny bit. Lovely. So obviously this room was full of mirrors, so I've obviously crouched down so I'm not in the reflection. So the girls at the back and the top of the frame sort of looks a bit too dark. This dress looks a bit too bright. So what I'm going to do for this image is actually add some contrast back by 0.1. So it's -30. I'm going to take it to -20, and it's just helped it align tiny bit. Right, and I'm going to add some exposure, especially in the back for the girls. Maybe it's this girl here. Just try and get them all balanced. I'm going to drop my floor and just take it off this bridesmaid a little bit. That's a bit better. And then I might add a tiny bit more to this bridesmaid. Put my floor back up. Nice. Add a bit more warmth, and then I'm going to pull the image. Nice. So before, after. Looking good. Let's move on. So you can sort of see it wasn't the warmest day. It was obviously April, so I think it was clouded over. I think it rained the night before. So that's it before. That's what we're dealing with. That's it now. So again, just pull it down a bit. Tiny bit more warmth. Pull it down a bit more. Right. This is what we had before. So it was obviously a black and white, which is fine. But I might just leave it in colour. My composition was a bit naff here. So I'm just going to pull this in, pull it down. I feel like it needs rotating a bit. And let's go black and white on this one. Again, I'm sort of looking at the white dress, so just pull it down and then we'll fix the rest of it. Just drag that in. Right, and let's just draw in the exposure everywhere where we want it. So definitely need some on Alan. So again, we don't have to be so precise with the masks and things like that. And then a bit more on Becca's face. And then I might do one more and then pull the exposure back. So suddenly we've gone from this, where the front lit from the sun, and obviously it's coming through the clouds, so it's still nice soft light, to a nice black and white. Okay, it's moving on. Again, got this shadow line, the window. So I'm just going to pull this in just so we don't have that hard edge. Got this bit of edge here, so let's pull that in and then just sort of straighten it up the best we can. Pull the exposure down, and then I think we're probably good to go. Let's add a subject pop and then detract it from the bottom of them. So subtract linear gradient, just pull it off there so it's more for the tops, and then pull the rest of the image before, after. Nice. So moving on, so they're being welcomed into the room. Matt Case is playing saxophone, so he's just slightly over here. So I'm just going to crop this in. So can we get rid of the bag? Wonder whose bag this could be. There's me thinking I've hid it out the way. It'd been there all day, I just forgot to move it before they came in, so it's not too bad. Might see if we can get rid of this black shadow on the wall, on the floor, sorry. Yeah, it's not too bad. Right, looks a bit better. Yeah, let's pull the exposure down. Bit more warmth. I'll say we're good to go. It's nice. Moving on. So this was brilliant. The Alan, it was a surprise for Alan. So the drag queen came in and was just having some great fun. I've got plenty of photos. Well, I really like this one. So she sort of turned to me and was like trying to hit me with the flowers. And it was a bit of good fun. Bit more warmth. I'm going to pull the magenta out of it a tiny bit. Before and after. Nice. Let's move on. Speech time. So let's straighten it up. Again, it's just previews on blog selections for the website. So there's not like 25 speech photos. Let's pull it down and then need some more warmth. Probably pull the magenta a little bit. And then we need to lift him. So subject pop and then just pull it back again. Nice. And I might just pull it down a bit more. Looks good to me. Moving on. Chloe. So Chloe's the manager at my local Starbucks. I know all of the staff. I go that often. Although I haven't been in a while, to be fair. But Chloe's lovely. So it was nice to see her. So I'll just warm her up a little bit. Bit magenta. Job's good. Okay, little shot of the characterist doing his characterist thing. So just pull this in a little bit. Bit of warmth, tiny bit of magenta. Good to go. Right, let's see what straighten does on this one. Yep, it's fine. Let's rotate it round. I mean, do have the videographer in the back here. Would have preferred not to be there. Let's pull it down. I think I did this black and white originally. I'm going to up the contrast a little bit because of the hairs from the smoke machine. So I might even add a tiny bit of D hairs. So again, I don't use too many things in the basic panel, as you've seen from over my editing videos. I put my preset on, I adjust the tint, the exposure and the temperature. But when there's things like smoke introduced, sometimes it's good to just lift it a little bit. I'm going to pull it down more and I'm going to add a subject pop just to try and create a bit more atmosphere. So I'm going to add contrast to them rather than too much exposure, just to highlight a little bit. I'm going to pull the blacks down on them as well. Just cool. Right, before, after. Yeah, I'd prefer that they were centered in the room, but they're not. So I'm just sort of taking the room as my central composition. Yeah, right, moving on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply that entire set of edits to this image, because this was black and white as well. So I'm going to paste previous, and it should be nearly good to go, I would imagine. So let's just fix the crops, pull it down, and then I'm going to add a bit of dodge. Cool. Just going to see if I can get rid of this stand here. Again, don't have to be too accurate. Jobs are good in. That looks nice. I feel like it's still a bit wonky. Pull it down. That looks nice to me. Okay, moving on. I think I originally did this in black and white. I did. So we could probably just apply the same as what we've just done to the previous image. Remember, we did a heel, so we need to take that off. Command Option R to reset the crop. And then let's reset those heel brushes and then just lift it a tiny bit. So I don't want all, like, to be able to see their faces and stuff. I don't want it up here. I want that mood, and I want that silhouette effect. So let's just fix the crop, straighten it up a bit. If anything, I actually prefer that to how I had it originally. So I had it originally like this. So it was a little bit more on the brighter side, then you could sort of see a bit more detail. So I think I prefer it a bit more silhouetted, which is nice. And we're going to increase that a little bit more by just pulling the whites up a little bit and the highlights. But again, I don't do that very often. Right, we've got 4 images left. Again, sort of washed out a little bit because of the smoke, where we had smoke and lasers and had everything. So let's pull it in a little bit, get rid of matte, and then let's add a bit of dehairs. I'm going to subject pop them. So that's again plus 30 exposure, plus 5 highlights. And then I tend to add a tiny bit of denoise at the bottom here in the detail panel, so plus 5. So then I'm going to add some contrast to them as well as lift them. Pull the exposure, lift it up a little bit. And I'm going to add some contrast back to the overall image straight away, before, after. Add a bit of warmth. That's nice. I like it. Okay, this guy with his guitar. I don't think I'll use this on the blog image just going forward. So I'm going to it's got 2 stars. If I press 0, it's going to disappear, and we're not going to use that image. Okay, fireworks. I've got a bridesmaid lighting my couple, so whenever I do fireworks, I always have to light the couple, otherwise they can just, you want them to be highlighted. So I've got a bridesmaid holding my Godox V1 with my modeling light on it. I did a fireworks one near the back end of last year. I just put I brought my light stands out the car, put the lights on them, put the modeling lights on, job good. I think this year I might invest in just some cheap video lights, Godox or Neewer or whatever they are. I've seen some cheap ones that the videographers use at weddings. They're like 60-70 quid. It's very bright actually as well, because with the modeling light it can time out. So if I get some actual video lights, right, add a bit more magenta, a bit more warmth. So with this type of stuff, when it's nighttime, if I add some warmth, you can sort of see it affects the fireworks a fair bit as well. So I'm just going to pull that back a little bit, and then I'm going to drag a linear burn dodge from the top. But I'm also, you can put this in if you want. There's a general all-purpose brush, so plus 30 contrast, plus 20 highlights, saturation's up a little bit. I'm going to take that back to 0, clarity's up at 30, and then sharpness is up at 20, but I'm going to pull that down because I don't want that. I'm going to up the noise a little bit. So for the shadows up here, you can sort of see it's a little bit noise. I'm going to pull the shadows back to try and reduce the noise in the top of the image. And then this is obviously too bright compared to them, which that's fine, it's fireworks, but I'm just going to pull it all back a little bit. The more we lift it, the more noisy the image. So now I'm going to add a subject pop to the entire bottom of the image, once more around them, and we'll get a lovely nice image before and after. And then one last one, I used the 35mm, 35 still, and I just shot the fireworks. So again, just pull in. We'll probably be looking more towards the highlights here to fix this. So I'm just going to lift it a little bit, because if I lift the shadows too much, we're going to introduce a lot of noise. So if anything, I might reset my shadows on this, pull the clarity up a tiny bit, dehairs, and then lift the exposure a tiny bit more. Add some more warmth, and it looks pretty good. Let's go 1 to 1. So you can sort of see the noise. This does have grain on it as well, so if you've got a really noisy image, we could turn off the grain, because we're getting that noise through anyway, and it'll help it. So that image technically doesn't need it. And let's just pull the whites up a little bit, and the highlights, and just pull them back a little bit. Pull the blacks down if we want, and then let's see if we lift the shadows a tiny bit more clarity. And then I'm just going to add a tiny bit more denoise to this as well. I try not to add too much because it can actually reduce sharpness, but when it's just fireworks, I think we'll be fine. Could also use the denoise AI function in here now as well, but that looks fine. Grid, select them all, survey mode, get rid of all of the edges, and that is the final set, guys. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you like them? Again, the final set will be updated on the website. I'm not even sure if Becca and Alan are currently on the website, so I will do that today. I'll add them back on. Yeah, I don't think they're on, so I'll add this onto the website. I may edit a few extra images up as well, just to create that pad out, because I think there's only 31 images, and I try to go for at least 40 images on the website. But I hope you enjoyed that. Again, I'll chop it up. I find chopping the video just cuts out all the pauses that you don't want to sit through, and it shortens the videos by 10 to 15 minutes in most cases. But yeah, that's Becca and Alan. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will stop this recording, and I'll see you in the next one. Toodaloos.